You're listening to Southern Fried Sports with Travis Reier on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret? With Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/try to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/try.
This is Southern Fried Sports with Bama Online senior analyst Travis Reier on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If I make it through this year, I think I'm gonna put this bottle down. I guess as time goes on, I'll grow to miss it less than I will now. And I think I'm gonna tell her that I'm gonna go away for a while, till I can get this demon out.
It is 11 a.m. on a gorgeous Monday morning in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It is time once again for Southern Fried Sports on your home for University of Alabama Athletics. Tide 100.9 FM. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnline.com, part of the 247sports.com network. I'm with you each and every weekday morning from 11 a.m. until noon. The show, as always, brought to you by Peterbrook Chocolatier out there at 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hills section of Tuscaloosa. Go ahead and beat the Easter rush. Get it done today, even if it means putting in your pre-order. You can do that at 205-752-0211. Remember, Peterbrook Tuscaloosa ships. Peterbrook Chocolatier has actually shipped chocolate to places like France. That seems a little backwards, doesn't it? I mean, I love Peterbrook, but shouldn't the chocolate be coming from France to Tuscaloosa? No. Not with Peterbrook. Folks in France can't get enough of that chocolate-covered popcorn. Peterbrook Chocolatier, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North. Joined on the program by the executive producer of Southern Fried Sports, Jacob Harrison, who together we combine to form the 60-minute boo of Sports Talk Radio. Jacob, are you all moved in? Are you settled in? Were you able to have a somewhat stress-free weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Just hung around and played video games all weekend, hung out with the kids, and just, took it easy. It was amazing.
Well, good stuff. We had a bit of a impromptu trip down to New Orleans. That's right. The chocolate lady came up with a trip on Thursday night. She comes in and she says, so what do you got this weekend? I said, well, we've got Alabama basketball, men's basketball for sure, on Saturday afternoon. Regular season closing matchup with the Georgia Bulldogs over in Athens. But otherwise, I think I can make some things work. She says, well, that's good because we're going red fishing on Saturday morning at first light out of Barataria, or actually Jean Lafitte, the little fishing town there, about 30 minutes south of New Orleans. And we've done this a couple of times now because we've made friends with the folks at Rojas Charters down there in Jean Lafitte. And if you haven't done it, if you haven't done the inland charter down there in the inland waters south of New Orleans, oh, it's a blast. Just plan on limiting out, by the way, on your redfish, especially if you go with Rojas. So we went down Friday, right after Friday's show, got in, set up, had a nice dinner at one of our favorite New Orleans restaurants, Jacquemo's. It's over in the Carrollton district, not all that far from Tulane and Loyola. If you haven't been to Jacquemo's, you got to go. You got to go to Jacquemo's and get that alligator sausage and shrimp cheesecake appetizer. I know it sounds crazy, but it is outstanding. Great meal there at Jacquemo's. Then we're up at 4:45 on Saturday morning because we got to make that short drive. It's only about 30 minutes down there to Rojas. We get down there, and man, captains Casey and CJ and our personal guide the last couple of times down there with Rojas, Captain Fuzzy. Outstanding. You're going to catch your limit with those guys. I'm just telling you. The wind was up Saturday morning down there. The water level was extremely low. I mean, it was like a mud puddle out there on Saturday morning. And Fuzzy, our guide, Captain Fuzzy is like a bloodhound on the water down there. I mean, between his instincts and his dogged determination, we got our 10 reds. And wildlife galore, even if you were to catch nothing, and that's not going to happen down there, okay? That's not going to happen down there. You're going to catch something. The wildlife galore, we saw probably a 10-foot alligator, a couple of them. We saw pelicans. We saw 2 bald eagles down there Saturday morning. They have this animal called a neutral that I'd never heard of, but apparently a neutral is a swamp rat, essentially. Big swamp rat. Looks like a beaver, just doesn't have the beaver tail. We saw a couple of dolphin out doing their thing. And by the way, on the fishing, the chocolate lady got me again. She got me again. I think we tied 5-5, but she had the big fish of the day. But you know what? On a winners and losers Monday, I was the big winner last night because she took some of that fresh out of the water redfish and blackened it last night as soon as we got home. So with some cheese grits, I can take the L when it comes to the fishing when that type of meal is the consolation prize. I'll take that trade. But yeah, Rojas is great. If you're looking for a charter service down there, try Rojas. You can find them on Facebook. They've got your cold drinks set up for your sandwiches, bait, tackle. I mean, all you do is catch fish. That's all you do. Now, having fun shouldn't be hard work. It's all fun if you use Rojas. I'm just telling you. You can find them again. Find them on Facebook and make it happen with CJ Casey and or Fuzzy. We're going to get into the sports world coming up on the program today. Other items of interest, in addition to Alabama men's basketball, you had Alabama softball on the diamond over the weekend over the Rhodes House. You had Alabama baseball. Speaking of low country, over there in the Charleston area, Bama wins 2 out of 3 from the College of Charleston. Explodes for 21 runs yesterday. That was a football score against a school that doesn't have a football team. College of Charleston, no football over there. Citadel's also in Charleston, so we know they have football. Charleston Southern has football there in Greater Charleston. Seen Charleston Southern here in Bryant-Denny Stadium during the Nick Saban era. So nice to see the Alabama Bats awaken after being shut out 1-0 on Saturday over there. But they take the series from C of C 2-1, and now you got 5 non-conference games this week. Looks like weather should allow all 5 of those to get in, unlike last week. And again, softball on the diamond. First loss of the season yesterday for the Alabama Crimson Tide. 1-0 losers to South Alabama. And look, sometimes you got to give it up for the other pitcher. And that's not to say Alabama shouldn't or can't be better at the plate. And even with a couple of key injuries right now, you still have enough in that lineup. But Olivia Lackey, the true freshman pitcher for South Alabama, she was dominant in that final game of the latest weekend event over there at Rhodes Stadium. 205-409-7877. Again, we will get more in depth into Alabama basketball talk because it is officially March. It's really March now. We got the conference tournaments coming up. We've actually had on the G5 level conference tournaments. Your mid-majors, they're pretty much, if they haven't already, putting a wrap on their conference tournaments. But as far as the varsity leagues, the P5s, we're getting into conference tournament action. Of course, Alabama won't play until Friday up in Nashville at the SEC tournament. Waiting on that winner from Kentucky and Mississippi State. I think Alabama's bracket, I think that path to that SEC tournament title, not easy. Maybe Arkansas as the 2 seed got the more idealistic draw, perhaps, in the SEC tournament. For Alabama, you're looking at either Mississippi State or Kentucky in the quarterfinals, probably either Florida or Tennessee in the semis, and then you could see a white-hot Arkansas team at this point. Arkansas didn't play well over the weekend, still won its 11th straight SEC games. So Eric Musselman still got the Razorbacks playing at a very high level. 205-409-7877. Let's go there right now. Corey is waiting to talk with us first thing on a Monday edition of Southern Fried Sports. Corey, how you doing?
Hey Travis, how you doing this morning?
Hanging in there, my man.
Well, I wasn't really pleased Sunday, but I think, like you said, you just have to give it to the other pitcher that came in and mowed us down. Let me ask you this. Are you concerned about the offense, or do you think it was just a situation yesterday where it just wasn't our day yesterday?
I thought yesterday was a case of softball being softball at this level, just the same as it can be in baseball. Look at Alabama baseball on Saturday. You know, it got 1-0. It happens, especially at baseball at this level. And every team, as you know, has that one pitcher. It doesn't matter who it is. It can be a midweek opponent like a USA. It can be kind of a mid-major. They all have that one gun that's capable of locking you up. And I think that's essentially what happened to Alabama yesterday. The kick I get out of yesterday is you look around message boards, hear some different things on social or see different things on social media, and it just seems like the one game that a lot of folks decide to either tune in and or comment about is the first loss in 20 games. Alabama softball's 19-1. But I saw more commentary after that first loss than I saw after any of the 19 wins leading up to it. I guess that's just the nature of the beast when you have a program like Alabama right now.
Let me ask you this. Do you see any holes anywhere in Alabama, or do you think we're okay?
Yeah, I think obviously the injuries are key. What I won't bail Alabama out for yesterday is that you still got plenty of bats in that lineup. You know that. I mean, we know the names. You know the names. You can go up and down that lineup, and there's still plenty of firepower. And again, that's not to discount the effort of Lackey. She was great. I mean, she dominated yesterday. And again, that can happen in softball and baseball. But I think if you start looking at the big picture and getting sides, getting a couple of your key players back, you shouldn't hit the panic button just yet on this Alabama offense. There's still great potential for Alabama at the plate and as a team as a whole. Montana Fouts loss in all this was really good yesterday. Just sort of on the unfortunate end, like Dylan Smith on the baseball side of things on Saturday that just didn't get the run support. And, again, that's sort of the nature of the game.
Do you think this is bad on the resume side, the loss?
I don't think it's a bad thing on the resume side. I think what could end up hurting Alabama a little bit, and I'm going to guess, though, that same weekend, because that weather event was so massive and widespread, I think losing those opportunities against Texas and Arizona, that may be more harmful big picture-wise than a loss to a South Alabama team that might end up being pretty good in the Sun Belt this year. You know, we don't know. But, no, I think in the grand scheme of things, no. That would be my initial inclination. And still, we need to see how things play out in conference play too, and we're going to get a look at this Alabama team in conference play this weekend at Auburn.
Do you feel good? Do you feel good about going into Auburn this weekend?
Yeah. I mean, this team is built to navigate Southeastern Conference play, postseason play at a very high level. I don't think that's changed any. I don't necessarily think it's the worst thing for a team to drop a game before jumping into SEC play. Not to say that this team isn't centered and focused, but that's what losses tend to do. I know coaches would rather it not be that way, that you have to learn from defeats sometimes more than you do in wins. But, it could be a good thing for Alabama. I mean, we've seen this stuff go both ways with different Alabama teams. Even here recently, look at Alabama men's basketball. After the loss to Western Kentucky, right? They're 4-3 on the season, and we're all thinking, oh, no, here it comes again. And all they do is turn their season entirely around and go 16-2 in league play. So, no, I don't think it's even close to that scenario for this softball team. I think they're just fine.
Well, this league is very stacked. I mean, Kentucky's undefeated, which is a surprise in a way. If you before the season started, you wouldn't have thought that. Florida has one loss. Auburn has one loss. LSU, even though they have a few losses, they're still good. So this league is still very good, and Tennessee's still good. Well, listen to this. Between Auburn, these next 3 weeks are going to be very tough because right now Auburn has one loss we're going into. We play Tennessee next week, who right now has one loss, and then the third week we SEC play we play Kentucky. So these next 3 weeks are going to be a really tough stretch in the SEC. But it all starts with Auburn, and that'll be a very pitch-heavy duel with their pitching staff versus ours, and it'll be important for Alabama to manufacture runs any way they can.
Yeah, I think it helps Alabama that it's already seen 2 conference foes in non-conference play, right? You saw LSU a couple of times. You saw Mississippi State here in Tuscaloosa. You went 3-0 in those games. So that's a good foundation point for Alabama, and it's kind of different than I'd say for a lot of teams around the league. Hey, Corey, always appreciate the phone call, my friend.
Good talk to you, Travis. Roll Tide.
There he goes, Corey, checking in on a Monday. If you'd like to jump on board, you can do so as well at 205-409-7877. Again, it is a winners and losers Monday. Couple of football coaches in early March making the winners and losers list, and not for reasons that I'm sure they or any of us would prefer. Les Miles, now of Kansas, placed on administrative leave in connection to allegations of sexual harassment in the workplace. When we first heard about this situation at LSU involving Title IX and NCAA, and we equated it mostly. First reaction was, Orgeron, the current regime, and those things. But no, we've heard more about Les Miles in connection with issues at LSU, and then even moving on to Kansas, than anything else to this point with LSU. Les, it appears, is a formality to be jettisoned from the KU program. Essentially, when athletic departments start the administrative leave process, that typically is a greasing of the skids. And it looks like Les Miles might very well be on his way out from Lawrence, Kansas. Also, Rush Propst. Did you see this? I don't think it's made a sort of headline or a news flash of yet where Rush Propst is concerned. We had talked about Rush Propst and his current conundrum. It's always something with Rush. He's now the head coach at tradition and championship-rich Valdosta High School down there in South Georgia. And Rush has been hit with allegations of illegal recruiting tactics, which I thought in South Alabama South Georgia there was no such thing. I thought you pretty much just rock and rolled in South Georgia, whether you're Valdosta or Lowndes or Colquitt there in Moultrie, Georgia. The stories, the legends, the myths of South Georgia high school football and how programs have gone about acquiring talent throughout the years is legendary. Talking about moving in families from one small town to another with jobs, things like that. But there is an accumulation of clips because it doesn't listen like just one consistent, steady conversation over the course of 15 or 20 minutes. It sounds like the audio that is on YouTube, and I'm not exactly sure who published it. I think it's Smoking Gun is the person's handle, actually, that posted this video that is a alleged conversation between Rush Probst and I believe the gentleman who is the Touchdown Club president there at Valdosta High School goes by the name of Nub Nelson. Of course, the Touchdown Club president at Valdosta High School goes by Nub. You think he's got all his digits intact, by the way, with a name like Nub? I mean, I hope that's what it is. I hope it isn't something else, why they call him Nub. Anywho, there's this tape on YouTube. If you haven't heard it yet, you can go to YouTube and pretty much, I think, type in Rush Probst Nub Nelson, and it'll come up there in your search. But it's an uploaded tape. And again, I think it's been edited, so context here could be an issue. But assuming that is Rush and Nub on that tape, having conversations, having discussions about cash being made available to Rush, where the process of player acquisition is concerned, Rush, once again, has a problem. The biggest issue with Rush, by the way, at this point, and it's not just Rush that's going to make headlines and all this, because Rush, allegedly, if it is Rush on that tape, makes the assertions to Nub that essentially this is what we've got to do. We've got to have this cash on hand. To better put it, Rush needs this cash on hand. Not we, but Rush. Rush needs this cash from the Touchdown Club so he can help targets that are considering becoming a part of the Valdosta High program in the event that they have to move, if they need apartment rent money, if they need bills paid, things like that. And Rush is a part of his pitch to Nub, on this tape anyway, this is what we hear, is that, look, that's kind of the way it goes at big boy programs. And he makes the association, essentially, between that and Kirby Smart at Georgia. Alabama is mentioned throughout the years. Now, Rush, obviously, again, Rush got some credibility issues at this point. So I think most of us take Rush's assertions with a grain of salt. I took them more as Rush trying to get cashed up by the Touchdown Club president for his own personal benefit. I mean, Rush knows as well as anyone, if there is a scheme or a plan in place at a particular Power 5 program to funnel money to players, it ain't the head coach who keeps $10,000 in his top drawer, Rush, right? It isn't the coaches who handle the money, which makes you wonder again if Rush was even going to distribute the money in the manner in which he says he was. Again, though, the only person that will be surprised if all of this ends badly for Rush Probst is Rush Probst. And I mean, seeing as how he's always landed on his feet, seemingly, why wouldn't he think that way? Oh, Rush. There you go. Rush Probst in it again. And it appears to be getting deeper by the moment. We're going to head to our first break when we come back. More winners and losers on a Monday. If you'd like to check in with us, you can do so at 205-409-7877. More of SFS on a Monday right after this.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports, and it's brought to you by C Spire. Add C Spire Fiber to your roster at cspire.com/ALFiber. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Alabama baseball down the College of Charleston 21-3 in Sunday's series finale at the ballpark at Patriots Point. The victory on Getaway Day clinched the series for the Crimson Tide and moved Alabama's overall record to 10-2. The Crimson Tide bounced back from a shutout on Saturday to score a season-high 21 runs, the most by an Alabama offense since 2019. Owen Diodati and Sam Prater tied for the team lead with 4 runs batted in apiece, while Will Patota and Andrew Pinckney were close behind with 3 each. Diodati's 4 came on a grand slam homer, while Prater delivered a single and a bases-clearing double for his 4, as the foursome accounted for 14 of the Tide's 20 runs batted in. I'll have more in a moment.
Bad internet is bad for business. We've all been there. Lagging video chats, slow downloads. Oh, come on. It's just not a good look. Instead, call C Spire Business. Our local experts deliver gigabit speeds backed by thousands of miles of fiber for the fastest, most reliable internet around. Period. No excuses, no apologies. Just fiber-fast internet that works. C Spire Business. See how our fiber solutions can help power your success at cspirebusiness.com.
Join us tonight for Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance on the network at 6 p.m. Central. We're hosting the show live from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa, and we'll be joined during the show by gymnastics coach Dana Duckworth, as well as in person by basketball head coach Nate Oates. The show begins at 6 p.m. and will also be streaming live as well on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And that's your Bama Update. Crimson Tide Today brought to you by C Spire. Crimson Tide Today is a production of the Crimson Tide Sports Network.
What a beautiful afternoon. Nothing but sunshine. The high 69. Clear tonight with the low at 40. Tomorrow and Wednesday, sunny both days with a warming trend. The high tomorrow 72. The high Wednesday 76. Warm on Thursday, mostly sunny with a high at 80. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 65 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9. For more coverage of Alabama football, visit us at Tide100.9.com or download the free Tide 100.9 app.
The Crimson Tide will not be denied.
Half turnovers and 2 for 12 from 3 together? Well, for the Alabama men's basketball team, you get a 6-point halftime deficit, one it had to feel good about, given the manner in which it got off to a 14-point deficit there to the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday over at Stegeman Coliseum in Athens, Georgia. 29-15, Georgia led that one. Alabama goes on a 15-7 run that ended the half with Jaden Shackelford actually missing a couple of free throws. Could have cut that thing even tighter. I will say this. I thought Jawan Gary's block to close the half there at the bucket was exemplary. So it's 36-30 at the half. And the second half, Alabama does what a championship caliber team should do. Another wobbly start offensively. I can't tell you if it's the alarm clock. I can't decide if it's just the fact that this is a team that pushes the basketball with all 5 guys, and all 5 guys are greenlit for the most part anyway to take the 3-point shot. And when you play that way and you turn it over 11 times in a half and you miss 10 3-point shots in a half, it's probably going to look pretty ugly like it did. And that's happened more than once here of late. Alabama, though, in that second half, 59 points, man. Just really got it going there early in the second half. Very assertive, getting to the paint. Herb Jones getting downhill off the bounce. Some pitch outs. Good to see Primo get it going. Josh Primo getting it going. Been in that freshman funk. Kind of battled through it. Good to see him use his size. Getting to the rim, a couple of Euro moves for the Canadian. And then had a 3 there in the second half. Needed to see one go in, didn't he? Josh Primo from deep. But Alabama takes care of business in the second half and closes the regular season with a 10-point win over the Georgia Bulldogs. And now heads to Nashville as the number 1 seed in the SEC tournament. Seems to be some Arkansas envy right now, man. I mean, the narrative the last couple of weeks, you'd think Arkansas won the SEC by 2 games, not Alabama. 2.5 games, I guess it was. But there's no questioning Arkansas going into this event exceedingly hot. 11 straight wins. I believe that's the first time that's happened for Arkansas since its national championship season under Nolan Richardson back in 1994. I was actually in attendance for that one in Charlotte, North Carolina, back in 1994, along with President Bill Clinton, lifelong Hog Bill Clinton. Saw the Duke Blue Devils go down. Grant Hill that year in the Duke Blue Devils go down to the Arkansas Razorbacks in that 94 final. Let's head back to the Peterbrook Chocolatier studio line at 205-409-7877. Let's check in with JR on a gorgeous Monday morning. JR, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, thank you.
That's good.
Yourself?
I am doing great. I'm doing better than I deserve, sir.
All right. Well, I've been listening on the show a little bit today. It's kind of hard for me to listen when you're talking softball, but I mean,
we have to be able to
real
service.
Men don't talk lady softball.
Well, I don't have a real man issue. I got a wife and 3 kids, so I don't have to. I don't have to answer any of those questions. I'm secure enough in myself that I can talk women's sports. I can talk men's sports. You know, we're open to each and every person, JR.
I mean, to me, you could just say my interest is whether they win or lose. Past that, it's got Alabama beside it, and they win.
That's fine.
That's good news. That's good.
That's fine, and I understand that, but I'm not going to.
I'm just hardcore Alabama football. Past that, once you get past Alabama football, it drops off fast.
Well, there's a lot of folks like that. Good for you.
I know.
But you know what? You know what? We can talk football on the show better than any other program on the dial, too.
I'm here,
so if you want to talk football, JR, let's talk football. Without having to put, if you want to talk football, let's talk football without having to put down other sporks. That would be my preference.
Hey, I'm kidding with you. I'm not putting down.
No, that's fine. Let's talk football, man. What do you got?
Well, football, I'm kind of like wanting to talk more about our next opponent, and I don't even remember how many days it is, but Miami. And how is it you pronounce Miami sometimes? I like
Miami. I pronounce it like Patrick Fain Dye used to.
My uncle used to do that.
Yeah, Pat Dye used to call it
Miami.
Missouri. Yeah, if you don't say it Missouri out there, you'll get corrected. You know, it's like Louisville. If you call it Louisville, the Louisville natives, they don't like that real good either, Jerry. You got to be careful. You got to be culturally aware
that when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle used to do the same thing. I couldn't even repeat it.
My late grandfather used to call a Toyota a Toyota. That's how he said Toyota. So yeah.
Okay. Well, football, Miami. What do we got there? I mean, are they going to be a ranked team? You think, or are they going to be a pushover, or are they going to be a challenge? Of course, that all has to do with how Alabama comes out of the gate, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Alabama doesn't have some questions of their own. But, yeah, when you look specifically at Miami, as we've talked about over the last week, especially where the quarterback position is concerned among Alabama opponents for 2021, a lot of this for the Hurricanes hinges on the recovery of D'Eriq King at the quarterback position because he sustained that knee injury in the bowl loss to Oklahoma State. And they had a couple of other quarterbacks take the transfer portal out of Coral Gables, so there's some depth concerns there beyond D'Eriq King. So it's not like Alabama in that, well, if D'Eriq King can't go, they've got another one waiting and ready, So he's big. I mean, they've added Charleston Rambo, a nice wide receiver from Oklahoma through the transfer portal. Manny Diaz it's been interesting because 2 teams on Alabama's schedule in 2021 within a couple weeks of each other. Miami on September 4th and then Florida on September 8th are both positioned in talent-rich Florida, yet it seems like both are more dependent upon the transfer portal as they are even the organic process of recruiting. So, Miami's going to have talent. I think Rhett Lashley has done a nice job, or did a nice job, especially last year, with that offense and with King pulling the trigger. But, they have some questions across that team. I think they're a fringe top 25 team going into the season, 20 to 25 maybe, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Well, I agree with you on the talent pool down in Florida being rich, but I don't understand why they Florida teams have fallen off. Florida State, Florida. Well, Florida did fairly well this last year, but you know, Miami. This seems to have struggled over the last 10 years or so, and I just don't quite understand why they're not the powerhouses, on top of the ranks.
I can give you some reasons. You want me to list some reasons for you? How
There's
about
3 of them? They have split the talent.
How about Jerry Jeudy? I'd say he's one. Amari Cooper, he would be another. Eddie Jackson. These are all guys that just Alabama has gone down into Miami's backyard and brought to Tuscaloosa. So whereas they are in a good location for talent, it doesn't mean they've been able to secure it as much in the last decade or so. And quarterback play, just go to that position. Start right there with quarterback play at Miami. It hasn't been up to the Vinny Testaverde or the Bernie Kosar or the Jim Kelly or those type of guys standard. There's no doubt about that. Gino Torretta, guys like that, they have been subpar at the quarterback position, and that's why for a lot of last season. Remember, Miami last season got off to this 5-0 type start. They're undefeated. They're fringe top 10. People were starting to drink the Miami Kool-Aid again. I was very hesitant. I wasn't ready to go there simply because we hadn't seen a lot of college football in general, because the ACC did get a little bit of a jump on everybody else. And then it turned out that Miami once again was a little bit above average. They were a little bit improved, but again, a lot of that had to do with De'Aaron King, and a lot of what they're able to do next season will have to do with De'Aaron King. Hey, JR, we appreciate the call, my man.
Well, I appreciate it, and I feel better now.
Well, we'll do our best. We'll do our best with that whole man card thing.
All right. Well, I appreciate it very much, Travis.
All right.
Have a great one.
Take care. Take care of yourself, JR. Oh, gosh. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more of a Monday edition, a versatile, a diverse program. Southern Fried Sports. More of it right after this.
You're listening to Southern Fried Sports with BamaOnline.com senior analyst Travis Reier on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
This little baby back in 1994. Super unknown. And I had to look it up this morning because this is the playlist theme of the day on SFS. And it's been almost 4 years since Soundgarden played the Tuscaloosa Amphitheater. Drugged the chocolate lady down there that night. She wasn't all that excited about. The date was May the 6th, 2017. And this one was a part of the set list. Fell on Black Days, of course. Chris Cornell, the lead singer, sadly, about a week and a half later, passed away up in Detroit, Michigan. 17-song set for Soundgarden here in Tuscaloosa almost 4 years ago. And that is your playlist theme of the day. 205-409-7877. JR was asking about Miami in advance of that September the 4th season opener between the Crimson Tide and Hurricanes over in Atlanta, Georgia. And as we said, a lot of it depends on De'Aaron King's return for the Hurricanes. Interestingly enough, I was talking about Rush Probst earlier down there at Valdosta and the transgressions, the alleged transgressions of late for Rush Probst. And a quarterback he had down there for a bit was Jake Garcia. Came in from California because California high school football was nixed due to the COVID. And Jake Garcia actually moved to Valdosta, was summarily deemed ineligible. I think he still ended up in North Georgia around Atlanta or somewhere playing. But Jake Garcia might be your backup quarterback, or who knows, maybe even your starting quarterback if De'Aaron King isn't ready on September the 4th. You also, again, as I talked about with JR, the transfer portal, once again, Manny Diaz working it. DeAndre Johnson, a defensive end coming in from Tennessee. Tyreek Stevenson, a talented corner, coming back from the University of Georgia to the University of Miami. So a couple things to keep an eye on. Let's go to the Peterbrook Chocolatier studio line right now. Check in with Cowboy out in Texas on this Monday morning. Cowboy, how are you doing?
All right, Travis, how are you?
Great, sir.
I saw a thing earlier this morning on Tider Insider, and then I see you're talking about Miami. And so when you think of the Miami Hurricanes, where do you go back and think of Miami? What do you remember about Miami? I know I go back remembering early 70s. They were playing games at Bryant-Denny Stadium. They had Chuck Foreman. They'd play games on Friday night down in the Orange Bowl. I remember Coach Bryant's 73 team, I think, went down there and played them. I remember the next year, Auburn and Shug Jordan played Miami on a Friday night. But I guess when you want to go back to think of Miami dominance, you think of, I guess, starting with Howard Schnellenberger, or you go back to the 60s and George Myra that played for the Birmingham Americans in the World Football League. Was, I guess, their first big-name player. But, I've always kind of liked the Hurricanes. I know some people don't, but I remember back when Coach Bryant used to play them, in Tuscaloosa. And Schnellenberger brought his first team to Tuscaloosa in 79. That was the first game in Tuscaloosa ever televised with light.
Yeah, wow. For me, it's more Schnellenberger based on my age. And I vividly recall in 1982, the season opener at Florida Field, because of Pops' allegiance to the Florida Gators, he took me down there on a brutally hot midday sort of kickoff. I saw Florida, which was ranked 16th at the time, in a season opener against Jim Kelly and the Miami Hurricanes. And the biggest thing I remember is it being 1,000 degrees on that artificial turf at the time at Florida Field. But that's kind of where it goes for me. Charlie Pell, head coach at Florida. And that's when Florida kind of got it going there into the mid-'80s before the probation and Pell's dismissal moved into the Galen Hall era there with the Gators. But, no, that's probably as far back as I go with Miami is pretty much Kelly and then into Bernie and then the run, over, 20-plus years. Incredible.
You remember when Schnellenberger kicked that field goal? He was up like 4 touchdowns at the end of the game against Florida from it was about a 45-yarder. You remember that?
Didn't that tie the game?
No, there was some game where the Florida people got upset that he kicked a late meaningless field goal in the game.
Yeah, I got you. That sounds like some Jimmy Johnson stuff, but it may have been
it was Schnellenberger.
Yeah, I believe you. I used to play Florida pretty much every year early, and that rivalry kind of went away. But they would even play in Tampa. I think they played in Tampa before in that game, so as a neutral site. But
speaking of Tampa, you remember University of Tampa used to have a football team.
They did. Freddie Solomon, the former San Francisco 49ers wide receiver, played quarterback at the University of Tampa.
Yeah, that Vanderbilt coach in the 80s, George McIntyre, I think he played at Tampa.
George had ties to Jacksonville, too, as I recall.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he kind of ended his coaching career as a high school coach, I want to say, at a private school in Jacksonville. It wasn't Bowles. I think it was Episcopal. Yeah. Yeah, we're going way back now. We're in that way back machine right now. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, hell, I can go. My memory way back's better than it was 2 years ago or yesterday. I don't know why that is.
It's nostalgia. It's the things we like to remember a lot of times, I think.
Yeah, boy, those. Did you ever go to a game at Legion Field in the 70s when Alabama played?
I didn't go in the 70s. No, in the 80s, yes. The infamous
Simpson Pepper ladies and gentlemen,
oh yeah,
30 minutes before kickoff, you know.
That and a stadium dog. Stadium dogs were never as good, have never been as good at Bryant-Denny, to me, as they were in Legion Field.
Oh, that stuff, it made my stomach crawl, that trout and mustard, oh, crap.
Oh, but I would wolf them down like they were, you know,
I would
fine
instead
sushi.
of eat that.
Sushi grade.
No.
Yeah, no, I ate them. I did a doubleheader back in 1989. I did a doubleheader. You had Alabama, Mississippi State at Legion Field in that early kickoff. I don't know if it was still TBS, might have been JP, something. They played in that early game in 89, and then the ESPN Saturday night game was Florida at Auburn. And I think it was Wasden in the corner that beat Emmitt Smith and the Gators in 89 at Jordan-Hare. So I went from Legion Field and that 89 Alabama team and made it down to Auburn that evening and took in those two games back to back on that Saturday. Yeah.
Now, did you get you a stadium dog for the ride to Auburn?
I think I had enough before I hit the exits that I was good. I was good for the ride. Yeah.
Hopefully you didn't have to make a stop on the way to Auburn. Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
But do you think, do you think Manny Diaz can get anything done at Miami, or you think?
Oh gosh! I mean, you know, earlier in the show, I don't know what the ceiling is exactly for Manny or Dan Mullen at two of those programs in Florida right now. What's the ceiling for Norvell at Florida State? I mean, I don't get more so with Mullen I do, but he's in the toughest league, you know, easily of those three with Miami and Florida State in the ACC. And, you know, I look at these way too early top 25s, and there's Florida back down in the 15 to 20 range, you know?
Yeah.
That's not Florida football, and it's not Miami football to be 25th. In a too early top 25. That's where they're at right now. Florida State isn't even in it. You know?
Right.
So
do you think Deion's working his way to Tallahassee?
That was a big win for Jackson State, by the way, over the weekend to go into Grambling and Deion and the Tigers, the Jackson State Tigers, to get that win.
Right.
If he does things like, I don't think it's a 10-game schedule, maybe even this spring for him. But you know, if he's kind of an 80% or better win rate guy at Jackson State, it could be really tough. It could be really tough to keep him out of that job, and you shouldn't want to keep him out of it. But you know, I can't totally discount that he won't be the next head coach at Florida State.
Right.
I want to see his shelf life at Jackson State. So far, so great, 2-0. And if he hangs in there and builds that thing to what it could be with him there, then he absolutely should be up for a P5 or Florida State specifically.
Right. What is the kind of the problem that Florida State, that Jimbo Fisher, besides they didn't want to pay the money, I guess, for certain facilities? Is that the main deal?
They're cash poor. They're cash poor at Florida State. That's the bottom line. Everybody hears Florida State. Everybody sees the players that have come through there. The sort of flash of that program. Just look at the uniforms. But they don't have the reserves that even a University of Florida have, right? I mean, most of what they did when they did renovate and expand Doak Campbell, and it was essentially an erector set at the time that they did it, was state funded. So in terms of private capital, liquid, money, they don't have the money. That was the biggest thing with Jimbo. I mean, he just couldn't get done what he needed to get done to compete for national championships. He wasn't trying to win division championships in the ACC. They win it in 2013. Jimbo's trying to sustain that.
Yeah.
And
so you're saying Florida State doesn't have many Bull Gators?
No. They have what they call Golden Chiefs, but they don't have enough of them. Hey, we got to get to this break.
All
we
right,
appreciate the call, Cowboy. Thanks. Always a lot of fun with Cowboy.
With you, buddy.
Oh, yeah, let's do it again real soon. There he goes, Cowboy. We're going to take a final break. When we come back, we'll put a wrap on a Monday edition of Southern Fried Sports right after this.
What a beautiful afternoon. Nothing but sunshine. The high 69. Clear tonight with the low at 40. Tomorrow and Wednesday, sunny both days with a warming trend. The high tomorrow 72. The high Wednesday 76. Warm on Thursday, mostly sunny with a high at 80. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 66 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The flagship station for Alabama Crimson Tide football.
Alabama touchdown.
Only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
You know, a couple of things as we get out of here on a Monday. Jeff Lurie, owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, says he wants to build around Jalen Hurts as his starting quarterback. You buying that? Good for Jalen if it turns out to be that way. I'll trust that more once we get past the draft. Okay? The Eagles don't take a quarterback in the top 10 of the upcoming draft. I'll put more into Lurie's comments from today. We didn't get into the NBA All-Star game. I know. What? We didn't get into that. I'll be honest. Transparency is key here. I think I watched 37 seconds of the NBA All-Star game. It's not because I don't typically like checking in. It's just, you had the Coming to America release, the sequel to Coming to America, the number 2 America, Arsenio, Eddie, and the Client Crew getting back together. John Amos back in there, James Earl Jones, some cameos galore in that one. It was just okay. I'm not going to spoil anything. So there you go. That's going to do it for a Monday edition of Southern Fried Sports right here on Tide 100.9. The lunch whistle on this Monday, Southern Ale House, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hills section of Tuscaloosa. Make your Monday a whole lot better. Get by there for happy hour a little bit later this afternoon. Happy hour specials going to make you feel a good bit better. Great dinner as well, lunch. Brunch options there at Southern Ale House, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North. Until 11 a.m. on Tuesday. Have a great rest of your Monday, everybody.
Thank you for